Last time we saw that we are primarily desiring creatures. The heart is immensely important. It determines the course of our lives. What determines our desires? Where do our desires come from? And how can we exert control over our desires? In London there is this amazing museum called the Natural History Museum, and they have this skeleton of a blue whale, which is huge and amazing. They have dinosaur skeletons. They have the world's largest collection of coloured diamonds. They have rare meteorites, and they even have rock from the moon. They have over 80 million items in the Natural History Museum. And so the curator's job is to steward everything well in the museum, to look after it, to preserve it, and to take care of it for future generations. The Christian philosopher James Smith says discipleship is a way to curate or steward your heart, to be attentive to and intentional about what you love. Your highest calling in life is to be a curator or steward of your heart. And along those lines, Proverbs says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And that's the NIV translation. The New Living Translation of Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. These are strong words, but they are so true. Did you know that the heart is more fundamental even than being a good spouse or a good parent? Why? Because where your heart goes, so goes your life. Where your heart goes, so goes your marriage. Where your heart goes, so goes your parenting. Everything flows from your heart. So the question then becomes, are you a good steward of your heart? How do we become good stewards of our hearts? Part of what it means to guard the heart is this: to be careful what we give our hearts to. Be careful what desires you cultivate. Be careful what loves you cultivate. So how do we control what our hearts love? Is it nature? Are we just born this way, born to love certain things and not love other things? Is it predestined? Did God implant a love for gardening in some people and Formula One in other people? Or is it sheer willpower that we can choose what we love and we can simply turn off as a switch, turn the things off that we don't want to love? None of those are quite right. It's not quite as simple as any of those things. Heart loves are trained loves. Heart loves, heart desires are moldable. Heart loves can be trained and are being trained. The only question is, by what? What are our hearts trained to love? What is your heart trained to love? Our loves are trained by our family of origin. My family loves to travel, and when I was younger, my parents would take my brother and I on holidays, and we would go on many holidays to Spain and other places like that. And from traveling a lot, traveling at least twice a year, I have learned to love what they love. And my family of origin has influenced my own loves. What we don't love is also trained by our family of origin. And I know this person whose mother is really hostile to the Christian faith. I don't know why, I don't know the story, but what I've observed is my friend, her daughter, is also now really hostile to Christian faith as well. She's really prejudiced against the faith. Not that she's examined it for herself and rejected it, not at all. She's inherited this hostility from her mother. What we love and even what we don't love are greatly influenced by our family of origin. So here's a tip for anyone single out there looking to get married. When you marry a person, you are also marrying the prequel. So learn about their family of origin, because it hugely affects your sweetheart's life, for better and for worse. So firstly, our heart loves are trained by our family of origin. Secondly, our heart loves are trained by our wider culture. You see, I love living in New Zealand, and in New Zealand, people love to play rugby, but where I come from in England, people love to play football. And in England, most people love football. In New Zealand, most people love rugby. What's going on here? Our wider culture trains us to love certain things. Christian philosopher James Smith says that our ultimate loves, longings, desires, and cravings are learned. And because love is a habit, our hearts are calibrated through imitating exemplars and being immersed in practices that over time direct our hearts to a certain end. So what loves have you learned from your family and from your culture? Thirdly, our loves are trained by marketing. Advertisers know that our desires are trained and they can be molded and even manipulated. I am a huge fan of Chicago-style deep dish pizza. It is this monster pizza, sometimes called a pizza pie, and you put the cheese at the bottom, you put it in reverse order, and then you put the toppings, and then you put the tomato sauce on top, and it's incredibly deep. A couple of slices will fill you up, but it is amazing. But I'm also a fan of really thin Italian-style pizza as well, and I've got favourite restaurants that I go to in different cities, and man, I just love a good pizza. From me talking about pizza, are you starting to desire to eat a pizza? Marketers know that that's how heart desires are influenced, and so they put these things in front of us. So as good curators of our hearts, we need to monitor what marketing we expose ourselves to. And fourthly, our loves are trained by our habits. That is how we use our time. Habits are simply repeated practices over time. And of the four, this is the one we have the most control over. How much time do you spend on social media? When you spend time on social media, to some degree, you're training yourself to care about what is going on in other people's lives and to care about how many people are liking the things that you're posting. You're also training yourself to share publicly what historically would have been quite personal or private. As you're living your life and going through every day, you're starting to imagine how this scene might look if it was photographed and uploaded onto Instagram or something else, and what others might think about it. And this is the power of habits. And so this habit trains you to care a great deal about what other people think about the things that you're saying. And habits are so powerful. Habits eat willpower for breakfast. The power of practices repeated over time is incredibly formational. These habits form and direct our affections. Author and theologian Tim Keller says, what makes people into what they are is the order of their loves. What they love the most, more, less, and least. So in summary, heart desires are learned, and so can be manipulated. Heart desires can be changed and directed. Heart desires are never neutral. The heart can be swayed to one direction or to another. But something will capture the heart. Something will capture your heart. You get to decide what. And this is part of the meaning of Proverbs 4:23. Guard your heart above all else, for it will determine the course of your life. So as we grow as Christians, we grow as curators of our hearts. One of the most fundamental discipleship questions is this: have you learned to love well? Something will capture your heart. You get to decide what. And whatever that is will determine the course of your life. So a couple of questions for you as we close. Have you learned to love well? May we be a people who learn to love well.